الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. First of all, I would like to greet you, Assalamu alaikum. And secondly, we have, like our brother Shafiq Jazakallah Khair said, the last session in this particular series, and inshallah hopefully we will meet for many more times for to benefit one another. Today we talk about a very important topic, which is innovations. In Arabic it's called bid'ah, and that's the singular of it, and the plural is called bid'ah. And as we always do, we'll go straight into the topic. And always with everything we start as the ulama do in Islam, rahimahumullah. They start by defining the terms that we have in the Sharia by looking at their linguistic definition. And in the language in Arabic, if we look at the definition of what bid'ah is, the ulama of Arabic, they say معنى البدعة يقولون اختراع من غير مثال سابق. That means to create or to make something that didn't exist before. And they give examples from the Quran, like Allah said, بديع السماوات والأرض, the one who created the heavens and the earth, meaning before they didn't exist. And the same Allah said to the Prophet ﷺ to say قُلْ مَا كُنْتُ بِدْعًا مِنَ الرُّسُلِ, that I was not the first of the messengers. And they say ويقولون في لغة العرب شيء بديع أي شيء لا مثيل له في الحسن مستحسن وكأنه قالوا لم يتقدمه شيء أو لم يسبقه شيء أحسن منه في الحسن أو أكثر منه في الحسن. They say something is بديع, amazing, to mean that it is very good and it is very something beautiful, or something that makes you wonder, to show that as if something or nothing preceded it before that was as good as that. And also the ulama of the lugha, they say ibtada'a in Arabic. If we say not in the Sharia, ibtada'a fulanun bid'atan kanu yaqsiduna biha wa alaykum assalam wa barakatuh ibtada'a tariqatan lam yasbiqhu ilayha ahad. That if someone did a bid'ah, they used to mean he started something even in the language that no one before him did. And of course you can see this last definition to be very close to the definition of the Sharia. In the Sharia, bid'ah is the ulama, they wrote books about bid'ah, and in particular I want to mention two books that I benefited greatly from when preparing for the lecture. And actually one of them is the source of the other, but the second also has many additional features. The first one is a book by Imam Abu Al-Sharkasi rahimahullah called al-I'tisam, Holding On. And it is considered one of the greatest books, if not the greatest book. It's in 2 volumes or 1, depending how you buy it, in terms of the theory behind bid'ah, innovations. And another book, and of course Imam Shatibi lived before us, rahimahullah, another book that was, the author benefited, as he said himself many times, from the book of Imam Al-Shatibi rahimahullah. That is the book by our contemporary Shaykh Dr. Ibrahim Al-Ruhaili, who is one of the teachers at Medina Islamic University, Jazahullah Khaira. And he authored a book called موقف أهل السنة والجماعة من أهل الأهواء والبدع. the position of the people of the Sunnah from the people of desires and innovations. And it's also in 2 volumes, 2 medium-sized volumes. And as far as I remember, that was his doctorate thesis that he gained, through which he gained his doctorate. Those are 2 books, and in those 2 books you find definitions of bid'ah in the Sharia by different ulama. And one of them is by Imam Al-Shatibi, and I believe that Imam Shatibi's definition is very good, and that is why I will give that one. And that definition is that he said, while defining bid'ah in the Sharia, that there are some ulama who included بعض العلماء أدخل الأمور العادية في تعريف البدعة، وهذا ليس بصحيح، وهذا هو الرأي الراجح، أن البدعة لا يدخل فيها الأمور العادية وإنما الأمور التعبدية. That he said that the things that some ulama included, those things that have either little or nothing to do with ibadah, or things that we can understand the reason for. Because when sometimes ulama say something is ta'abbud, ta'abbud means Allah told us to do and He didn't tell us the reason. For example, they give examples. Why is Salatul Fajr 2 rak'ah, not 3? Or not 4? And Dhuhr is 4, and Asr is 4. Why not 5 or 6? This is ta'abbud. We don't know the reason. For example, when we start Salah, we say Allahu Akbar, we raise hands. The Prophet ﷺ used to do it. We can't, if someone says, why do you do it? We can't give a good reason, meaning Allah told us to do it, and we do it. So sometimes the ulama, when they say ta'abbud, they mean يقصدون بذلك ما لا يعلم معناه أو حكمته بالضبط من جهة الشارع الحكيم. For that reason, the definition of bid'ah that I believe is very good is what Imam Al-Shatibi rahimahullah defined in relation to ibadat and the deen. طريقة, he said, في الدين, قال, I will translate now, طريقة في الدين مخترعة. It's a way that is new in the deen, that has been made. تضاهي الشرعية. It resembles the Sharia way. يقصد بالسلوك عليها المبالغة في التعبد لله سبحانه. By following it, people intend to increase their worship of Allah. So it is something new through which people try, if we simplify it even further, it is something new in the religion through which people intend to worship Allah. So that's definition in the Sharia. And this includes, as Imam Shatibi rahimahullah said, وهذا يشمل الأفعال والأتراك أي الفعل والترك. And it includes things that people do that were not done by the Prophet ﷺ, and they were not told to us to be done by Quran or Sunnah or any of the Sahaba. And they include those that people leave even though they should do them. Because sometimes when we think of bid'ah, we always think someone doing something or saying something. But in fact, they include leaving some things. For example, the very famous hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu in Bukhari and Muslim and other books of Sunnah. Those 3 people, 3 of the Sahaba, of course, who came to the houses of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, asking about the ibadah of Rasulullah ﷺ. So when they were informed, they thought it's little, that ibadah that the Prophet ﷺ does. فَلَمَّا أُخْبِرُوا كَأَنَّهُمْ تَقَالُّوهَا. So one of them said, I will أين نحن من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وقد غفر الله له ما تقدم من ذنبه وما تأخر. That where are we from the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام? Allah has forgiven him what preceded from his sins and what will come. And this is where the problem occurs, because they started using their aql too. So their understanding that was wrong. And one of them said, maybe many of you know, but it it doesn't harm us to repeat it. I will not marry women. I will dedicate myself to the religion. And the other said, I will always fast every day. And the other said, I will pray every night. Meaning that we want to do more. And the Prophet ﷺ, of course, was informed of that. And because they wanted, the reason I give this hadith, some of them, they wanted to leave some things as if it is better. Like leave maybe eating good food. Or leave doing something that is halal. Because eating good food or marrying women is halal. Is something permissible. So they wanted to, or sleeping, for example. They wanted to leave it as ibadah. That's why the definition is very important. If someone leaves food because it harms him in health, there's nothing wrong with it. But to leave food as if it is religious, then that is different. That is where the danger comes. So the Prophet ﷺ said, of course, to them, did you say that? They said yes. He said, أَنَا أَخْشَاكُمْ لِلَّهِ وَاللَّهِ إِنِّي أَخْشَاكُمْ لِلَّهِ وَاتْقَاكُمْ لَهُ. I fear Allah more than you. I fear Allah more than you. And I have more taqwa than you. Yet, I eat food and I fast and I eat and I sleep and I pray. وَأَتَزَوَّجُ النِّسَاء. And I marry. I have wives. فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. So whoever turns away from my sunnah is not from me. So to show that even to leave those things, because nowadays people say, why are you constantly talking about bid'ah and this and that, you know, we have problems. The Prophet ﷺ is saying severe things to those three Sahaba. He said, who turns away from my sunnah? They didn't want to turn away from his sunnah. Then he is not from me. It's very severe. It's not, you're not from me. Go. You know. Why? Because that is to show that in Islam we don't have exaggerations. We don't have extremes. You know, we worship Allah, but at the same time we live our lives. So this hadith, the ulama, they bring to show that there are innovations that can involve leaving things, not just doing things. That is very important to understand. The same as sunnah. We have sunnah to do something and sunnah to leave something, meaning not to do something. That is very important point which many Muslims don't know. They think that sunnah and bid'ah is always to do something. But there are many cases when to follow the sunnah means not to do. And to avoid bid'ah means to do sometimes. And that I will try, inshallah, in the limited time we have, to shed some light on as we progress, inshallah. So those are the definitions in the lugha, in the Arabic language, and in the Sharia. Now I would like to mention that Allah and His Messenger ﷺ, they declared in the Quran and the Sunnah war against bid'ah. Now, they declared war against bid'ah because bid'ah means that the person is saying, maybe not by his tongue, because if he says it by the tongue he will be a kafir, that Allah didn't complete His deen. When Allah said, al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, today I have completed my religion for you. But He's saying there is something left. I will finish it. Also the ulama said the reason bid'ah is so dangerous and haram, and we will see now the texts in the Quran and the Sunnah, is because the person, whether they like it or not, is showing by that as if the Prophet ﷺ didn't deliver the message totally. There are things left. And that, of course, is very dangerous to think even like that. For that reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He, as I said, the ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah, al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. This is very great ayah. This day I have perfected your deen, completed your deen for you, and have perfected my favor upon you, and I have become pleased for you for Islam as your deen, as your way of life and religion. Islam meaning not every Islam, Islam of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, as we will see. Also Allah said, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. That this is my way, so follow it, and do not follow other paths, because they will take you away from that straight path. And this, when this was recited by the Prophet ﷺ, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, and this hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim, that he drew a straight line in the sand, and then lines to the right of it and to the left. So those lines were at an angle, 90 degree or whatever angle. They are not parallel to that main line. And the Prophet ﷺ said, this is the straight path. And those paths are the paths of shaitan, of the Satan. And upon every path, there is a caller, there is shaitan calling to it. And he recited this ayah, which I've just recited. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَرَهْبَانِيَّةً إِبْتَدَعُوهَا مَا كَتَبْنَاهَا عَلَيْهِمْ. That they innovated and invented rahbaniyah, which means the institute of being monks. That was not his. Allah said, we didn't prescribe upon them. That's why you have, it's against human nature, ikhwan. That's why you have the Catholic Church riddled with scandals of sex scandals, because they say a priest cannot have a wife and all the rest of it. And if someone has a wife, they can't divorce. All this goes against human nature. Now, that is why that was not prescribed. That is not from the religion of Allah. All the ayat that order us to obey the Prophet ﷺ and follow him, which many of them I mentioned last week and the week before, and not to disobey the Prophet ﷺ, all of them we can also include in this, because that means that we cannot, in order to please, to worship Allah, to worship God properly, we must follow the way shown to us by our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Otherwise, there is no point sending him. If we say that we know better, I mean, we don't say it by our tongue, like I said. If someone says it or thinks, that's kufr akbar, because it contradicts the Quran and Hadith and everything, and ijma' of all the ulama and all the Muslims in the world. Theoretically, they all say that that is not correct. If you ask a Muslim, do you know better or the Prophet ﷺ? So they all say, of course, the Prophet ﷺ. But they differ in their actions. That's why all the ayat, all the verses in the Quran that tell us to follow the Prophet ﷺ, it is not to limit us and it is not to oppress us, as some people think, but it is to make it easy for us. Because if someone shows you the way and says, follow me, that's easy, then you go by yourself and have to find out. Now, as for the Sunnah, then of course we have a lot of ahadith. One of them is the great hadith of Irbad bin Sariya in the Sunan, in most of the Sunan, where the Prophet ﷺ said, those of you who live long, they will see great differing. So I advise you to hold on to my Sunnah and the Sunnah of the rightly guided caliphs, the rightly guided rulers after me. He didn't say every ruler, meaning in terms of guidance. In terms of obedience, he said we have to obey the ruler. But in terms of guidance, he connected it to his Sunnah and the Sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa. And he said, as you probably all know, hold on to it and bite onto it. Bite on bin nawajid, with your back teeth, the molars. When you bite something with those, you don't want to let go. This to show the great strength of holding on to that sunnah, not like weakly, or meaning in a weak way, or whereby the person can easily let go, but in a very strong way to hold on to his. And this is what is happening, and it started happening a long time ago, since actually first bid'ah started, and we will inshallah see the first innovations and the roots of innovations. And also the Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِيَّاكُمْ وَمُحْدَثَاتِ الْأُمُورِ, and I warn you against new things in the religion. The reason we say in the religion, because bid'ah is to do with the religion. Even though some ulama, like Ibn Abdus-Salaam and I think Imam Nawawi, rahimahumullah, they said bid'ah is of 5 types. But to be fair to them, they included in those other types, like bid'ah obligatory, wajiba and good, and they included things that are not to do with the deen, not to do with the religion. So they didn't say to do that which the Prophet didn't do, and to say that that brings you closer to Allah is wajib. The ulama didn't say that, because they are ulama, they know. But they mentioned things like improving roads. These are not to do with the religion. Or looking after, for example, registering the people and organizing the state, and all these are not to do with the religion as such. So the muhdathat, we mean not innovation in the sense of technology and all those things we have, but in the sense of the religious affairs. So the religious affairs, we must beware of new things. That's why we should ask the ulama. نعم وإياكم محدثات الأمور فإن كل محدثة بدعة, because every new thing is considered a bid'ah. وكل بدعة ضلالة, and every bid'ah is dalala, going astray, not straight, not following the way of Allah. Hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha in Bukhari and Muslim, من أحدث في أمرنا هذا, and of course the Prophet said it, I mean Aisha narrated it, من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد أي مردود العمل, that whoever innovates or introduces something new, because ihdath means something new, in this affair of ours, in this religion, then it is not accepted. And if someone says, I don't innovate, I follow, someone did it before me, so I just follow. And there is a narration of that hadith in Sahih Muslim that says, من عمل عملا ليس عليه أمرنا فهو رد. That whoever does anything that is not from our religion, then it is rejected. Also the hadith of, in Bukhari and Muslim as well, of the hawd, the pond of the Prophet ﷺ. On the Day of Judgment, may Allah make us from those who come to that pond. The Prophet ﷺ, his pond is great, very big, 1 month's journey across, 1 month's journey the other way, and its water is whiter than milk, extremely white, and sweeter than honey. And it has cups like stars in the sky, not stars where you can't see any, but stars when you see so many. No? And whoever drinks once, just one sharba, will never la yadhma abadan, will never feel thirsty. This is the Prophet ﷺ, his ummah will come to that pond, and if someone thinks that pond is too small, he should think again, because that is a very massive pond. You can even call it an ocean. So in that hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, there will be some people who will be taken away, and I will say, oh Allah, my ummah, my followers. And it will be said to me, he said, إِنَّكَ مَا تَدْرِي مَا أَحْدَثُ بَعْدَكَ, that you don't know what they introduced new after you. That is very scary hadith. And some ulama said this means maybe bid'ah that leads to kufr. Some said no, any bid'ah. In any case, it's very dangerous. For that reason, it's very important for us to know what is sunnah and know what is bid'ah, to follow the sunnah and to leave the bid'ah for the sake of Allah. Of course, we have many more. We have, if we were to talk just hadith, we would spend all night bringing hadith. But of course, we don't have time, so I will just suffice with that. And I will go to some of the statements of the Sahaba and those who followed them correctly, the ulama from the Tabi'een and others who followed them, to show how they used to view bid'ah. Anything new that they didn't see, they didn't experience with the Prophet ﷺ, they used to advise one another to leave it. And they used to advise their students. Because when they used to give knowledge, they used to do tarbiyah of their students, just like it should be. Meaning that they would teach them manners, they would teach them good things, how to deal with the ilm, with the knowledge they're getting, how to correctly approach that knowledge and apply it, how to not feel too big about oneself, and all these things are very important. So Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he used to say, ittabi'u wa la tabtadi'u faqad kufitum. Follow the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ and don't make new things, because what you have been left with is enough for you. You don't need new things. Also, he used to say, alaykum bil amr al-atiq, that I tell you to follow the old, the original way, meaning not what people do now. And some of the Sahaba, like Abu Huraira, Abu Darda and others, they used to come home and Abu Dhar and say, subhanallah, I don't recognize anything we used to do with the Prophet ﷺ except they pray in jama'ah. And when you read that, you think, what now if they saw now? They saying it about people who came after them and they witnessed that. They used to say, I don't find anything you do from the Sunnah except jama'ah you do it. Praying in congregation. Meaning they used to consider that many things were changed and left. And Abu Darda, Uwaymir bin Zayd bin Qais al-Ansari used to say, لَن تَضِلَّ مَا أَخَذْتَ بِالْأَثَرِ. You will never be misguided as long as you follow athar, meaning the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Abdullah bin Amr bin al-As radiyallahu anhuma used to say, مَبْتُدِعَتْ بِدْعَةٌ إِلَّا ازْدَادَتْ مُضِيًّا أي انتشرت. That there is no bid'ah except it continues to spread and go. And وَلَا نُزِعَتْ سُنَّةٌ إِلَّا ازْدَادَتْ هَرَبًا. And no sunnah is left except it continues to run away from people until, meaning they practice it. And a man said, قال رجل لابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أوصني. A man said to Ibn Abbas, give me advice. قال عليك بتقوى الله والاستقامة. I advise you to fear Allah and to be upright, to be mustaqim. اتبع ولا تبتدع. Follow and don't follow bid'ah. Don't follow innovations that have no root in the Sharia. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma said, كل بدعة ضلالة وإن رآها الناس حسنة. Every bid'ah is dalala, going astray. Every innovation in the religion leads us astray from the straight path, even if people consider it good. Because nowadays we sometimes say it's not correct to do it, and they say, don't worry, don't make life difficult for people. But people make life difficult, not us. The deen is easy until people make it hard. The religion is easy until the people make it hard. And we will inshallah give some examples. Abu Qilaba, one of the great ulama of Basra rahimahullah, used to say, مَبْتَدَعَ رَجُلٌ بِدْعَةً إِلَّا اسْتَحَلَّ السَّيْفِ, that no person innovates a bid'ah except it can mean two things. Either that he deserves the sayf, the sword, to be punished for it, or, and both are correct, or that he makes it halal and considers it halal to kill Muslims. That's why many ulama of the Sahaba, they used to say, every bid'ah ends with bloodshed. And we can see it in history. If you read the history of the first 100 years, it's red. 100 years of Hijrah. And who the people, not the Sahaba. We will talk about the first bid'ah that started, the Khawarij. And the first of them, of course, came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, fear Allah. Be just. You didn't do justice in distributing this wealth. And the Prophet ﷺ, and of course to accuse the Prophet ﷺ of not being just is kufr, is disbelief. So one of the Sahaba said, let me do something to him. Skin treatment. So the Prophet ﷺ said, no, don't, because people will say Muhammad is killing his companions. Look, the concern for the reputation of our call. And he said, from the followers and those who come after this man, there will be people who will recite Quran, but it will just be here. It will not go to understand. Like now, we have many people recite Quran. If you say, what's the meaning? Qul huwallahu ahad, he doesn't know anything. So for him, he knows nothing from the Quran. Just he recites. That's one of the features of the people of bid'ah, of the Khawarij. They will pray so much that you will think that your prayer is nothing almost. That's he's saying to the Sahaba. They will fast so much. يَمْرُقُونَ مِنَ الدِّينِ, they will leave the deen. That's why some ulama said they're kuffar. Because of what the Prophet said. They will leave the deen as an arrow, used to be arrow very fast, leaves the animal that it hits. Normally a good quality arrow would go through the animal. And in some narrations, without leaving a trace. So, and also the Prophet ﷺ called them very terrible names. He said, those whom they kill, they're the best of the shuhada. Or the best who, طُوبَى لَهُمْ, great reward for them. Or, طُوبَى, many ulama say, is a great tree in Jannah, in paradise. And he said, those who are killed from the Khawarij, شَرُّ قَتْلَى تَحْتَ أَدِيمِ السَّمَاءِ, the worst people killed. And he said, hum kilabun nar, very severe statement. They are dogs of the hellfire. And those are the people. The reason I'm saying all of that, Imam Muslim rahimahullah narrated so many, 10 or more hadith in different ways, and Bukhari some of it as well, to show the destructive nature of these people. And the Prophet ﷺ also said one quality for them. يَقْتُلُونَ أَهْلَ الْإِسْلَامِ يَذَرُونَ أَهْلَ الْأَوْثَانِ, they will kill the Muslims, meaning mostly, and leave the non-Muslims. And from the time that Abu Bakr started being Khalifa, they started making problem, and Umar and everything, and they of course became big in the time of Uthman and Ali radiallahu anhuma. To the extent that they killed Uthman. And they used to say, we're doing jihad. Does it ring a bell? We're doing jihad against who? Which jihad? Islamic? Islamic jihad is not like that. And it's not what the media portray. Jihadist and things like that. Nowadays we can't say the word jihad. And Islamic jihad is totally not that. Jihad in Islam is a noble cause. Not what they try to show to people to scare them and to show that Islam is all about bloodshed, and those people who with open mouths run around and burn flags and the effigies of some president, Allah alam what. That's all they have time for. They don't think about anything. Just let's get together, burn something and use our lighters and things like that. That's how they showed the Muslims. Naam? And that's totally the wrong image. But those, they show another image, totally, those people who, and the problem is, there are two problems, main problems, in almost every bid'ah. And that can be seen in the Khawarij very clearly. Number one, not following the Quran and Sunnah correctly and not understanding it correctly. Because when Ali radiallahu anhu in his time sent Ibn Abbas to speak to them, he said very simple thing to them. You are claiming you're on the right way. They said yes. He said, I don't see any Sahaba with you. No, none. Where are you on the right way? When Allah chose these people for His Prophet ﷺ, none of them are with you. Not a single one of them. That's a very effective argument. And they had nothing. And some of them returned after he talked to them about the 3 ayat they have problem with. Some of them didn't return. They fought. They used to fight Sahaba to kill them. They did takfir of Uthman and Ali and Muawiyah and many people. So look at the damage. One of them is not following the correct understanding. The other problem, thinking yourself better. And those two are connected. Because if you don't think yourself better, would you say that the other people are not Muslims, not kuffar? For that reason, what Abu Qilaba rahimahullah said is very true, that most bid'ah end in bloodshed. Al-Awza'i rahimahullah said, "Isbir nafsaka ala sunnah." Be patient and make yourself patient upon the sunnah. وَقِفْ حَيْثُ وَقَفَ الْقَوْمِ. And stop where those people, meaning the people who were guided, stopped. Meaning don't go and don't think you, mashallah, genius and you know more than them and you understand more than them. وَقُلْ بِمَا قَالُوا. And say what they said. وَكُفَّ عَمَّا كَفُّوا عَنْهُ. And don't say what they didn't say. Very easy, just follow. وَاسْلُكْ سَبِيلَ سَلَفِكَ الصَّالِحِ. So he said it. Follow the path of your pious predecessors, the first 3 generations of Islam. فَإِنَّهُ يَسَعُكَ مَا وَسِعَهُمْ. Because what was enough for them is enough for you. Very simple. To avoid all of that. That is why the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the people who learned from them, of course, they were the leaders and they were the scholars, those who were scholars from the Sahaba, from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. They taught the others, of course. And the way they taught is to love the Sunnah and people of the Sunnah and to hate bid'ah, innovations and people of bid'ah. And of course the story of Umar with Sabigh or Subayg is very well known when he punished him. Because he used to go around spreading new things that were not heard before. Like, what do you say about this ayah? وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوَةً. What that ayah? What's this ayah? What's this verse mean? And the Sahaba didn't used to do that before. They just come and learn. They don't go to people and say, what do you think? To make them doubt. So if you want to know, you go and learn. Also, Imam Malik rahimahullah, the famous story we mentioned, I mentioned it before when we were talking about where is Allah. When the man said, how did Allah rise over the throne? That was never asked before. That's why he said, I think you are mubtadi'. You are an innovator, because they didn't used to ask such questions. How did Allah rise? So they used to dislike anything new. And if you look at what they call questions that some of the students used to ask those great Imams, those great scholars of early Islam, you will see that the answers they give, for example, used to be like Imam Ahmad used to say, لم أرى فيما سلف شيئا في هذا. I didn't see any Sahaba or Tabi'een or anyone doing that or saying that. That's the answer. Or a man came again to Imam Malik rahimahullah and said, Ya Shaykh, I want to do ihram, and when we perform Hajj or Umrah, pilgrimage, or minor, you can say pilgrimage, we do ihram because there are stations that Allah pointed to us, which we call mawaqit, those places, which we can't pass without changing our clothes for men. For women, it's only the face and hands. The Prophet ﷺ said it's not allowed for woman to cover her face, لا تنتقب, with niqab, the one that she ties. And she can't wear ولا تلبس القفازين. She can't wear gloves in ihram. But she can put something that they call mindil or something, or تسدل شيئا, if she wants. If there are women, like Aisha used to say, if there are men, we used to sometimes put something, but without tying it. For men, we can't pass those stations without ihram, if we're intending to do Hajj or Umrah. And of course, ideally you should do it in the airplane, once you are square, which is difficult to do, and that's another issue. But one man came and said to Imam Malik rahimahullah, you know, I want to do ihram before the miqat. He said, I fear fitna for you. He said, what fitna? I'm just increasing the reward. He said, because I heard Allah say in the Quran, فَلْيَحْذَرِ الَّذِينَ يُخَالِفُونَ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ أَن تُصِيبَهُمْ فِتْنَةٌ أَوْ يُصِيبَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. He said, I heard Allah say in the Quran, let those who differ with the Prophet ﷺ beware that some fitna, some tribulation or trial will come their way, or they will have painful punishment. Look how they used to view these things. And now we have some people, you know, they say, don't. On the contrary, if you follow the Sunnah, your life is easy. Very easy. But if you follow those things people invent, your life becomes very hard. And there are certain groups that the ulama called to be the usul. The usul, those original or the sources of the people of innovations. I mentioned the Khawarij. They called Khawarij because they either the ulama said they left Islam, kharaju min ad-din, or they did khuruj, they did rebellion against the Muslim ruler, which is not allowed, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man ra'a minkum min amirihi shay'an yakrahuhu falyasbir." And there are many other ahadith. Whoever among you sees from his amir, from his ruler, something he dislikes, let him be patient. And he also connected it to not going against the ruler, to being Muslims, doing salah and many things. So the ulama agreed that if the person is a Muslim, it's not allowed to rebel, but rather we have sabr. And the Prophet said also, give them their rights and ask Allah your right. Not like now, go and say, we need bread. Tomorrow we don't have meat, we need meat. Then we don't have spaghetti, let's do spaghetti. Then milk is no good, let's do milk. This is never finished then. Because some people, they don't have spaghetti, they go demonstration. The others, they don't. What is this? It's ridiculous. Then someone say, we want naan bread. Wallahi, ikhwan, I'm not lying. Some people go with bread. I saw it. It's ridiculous. I said to the brothers, at least they should take meat with them. Not bread. This is bread. For bread, you go and bake yourself 3 hours in the sun. Take meat. Say, we want meat. Chicken. Fish. There is no fish. It's too expensive. Khubz. What's khubz, ya akhi? Khubz is... So, for that reason, the Prophet ﷺ told us to have patience. Now, of course, if you say patience, you're someone's agent. Allah alam, they will invent many agencies. Another group that the ulama mentioned are the Rafida, the Shia. And of course, all these, they subdivided, they keep dividing because they never agree. I will mention some of the qualities and signs of the people of Bid'ah, why they keep dividing the people of innovations, because they don't follow the Sunnah. They are subdivided into many groups, including the Rafida, the Shia. But the ulama, they mainly divide them into three. The Ghulat, the extreme, who say Ali is Allah. They say, still some people exist like that. Or they give Ali radiallahu anhu some sifat of Allah, that he controls something. Plus the Imamiyah, the 12 Imams, who also, they say that the 12 Imams are ma'soom. They are infallible. Of course, the 12th is a non-existent personality. 11, all Imams of Ahlul Sunnah, starting with Ali radiallahu anhu. So, and Zaydiyah. Those tafasil, as they say, details, just I'm saying for you to do more research. Otherwise, we don't have so much time. Al-Qadariyah, those people who say that, because Shia or Rafida, just to mention, they call themselves Shia to Ali. We support Ali, and they say, but their origin is from a man from Sana'a called Abdullah bin Saba. And they have a group called Saba'iyah. He was a Jewish man from Sana'a who embraced Islam, so-called, and misguided many people. Al-Qadariyah, those who say no qadr, and Imam Muslim narrated some hadith at the beginning of his book, how some of the tabi'een, when they first heard those things happening in Basra and things, they went to see some of the Sahaba, and they met Ibn Umar. And he told them the hadith of his father about Jibreel, when Jibreel came. And one of the things, of course, as you know, the angel Jibreel asked the Prophet ﷺ, is Iman. What is Iman? And one of the articles of belief, faith, is to believe in Qadr, predestination. And he said, tell them that if they were to spend the equivalent of the mountain of Uhud in gold, that would have not been accepted from them until they believe in Qadr. And he said, tell them Ibn Umar is free from them and they are free from me. I'm not with them. So Qadariyah, also Murji'ah, those who generally say they are divided into groups as well. Those who say that generally they all agree that actions are not from Iman. There are those who say just statement is enough for Iman. The others say just heart. Others say statements and heart. And don't, like I said, if you have more questions later, we can deal with that. And Al-Jahmiyyah, very, very bad sect, that they combined 3 in 1. They combined the bid'ah of Jabriya, which is that the person has no choice over his actions. So if I do like this, Allah did it, I didn't do it, according to them. And if I look there, I didn't do it. So some ulama said, just slap him and say, Allah did it. I didn't have a choice, sorry. Oh, subhanallah. Something is going on. Naam. So they connect that, plus irja, the murji'ah, and ta'til, they deny the sifat, or most of asma and sifat, the names and attributes, because they say if you say, or especially attributes, if you say any attributes are for Allah, then you compare Allah to the creation. And we dealt with that, alhamdulillah, before. And they didn't mention Mu'tazila, Asha'ira in those groups because they all came from those. They mixed some beliefs of those, some beliefs of the others. And some of the signs of people of desires and bid'ah. The reason they call people of desires because generally they don't like to follow the Quran and Sunnah, but rather they follow what they think is right. some of the signs is division. They divide constantly, even between themselves. They don't unite. That's why the people of the Sunnah are called Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, ay al-Ijtima'. The people of Sunnah and unity, meaning we unite on the Sunnah. Another sign is following desires. Another sign is following those unclear Quranic verses, which Allah mentioned at the beginning of Surah Al-Imran. And Aisha also narrated that the Prophet said, when you see those who argue about these, know that they're from people of innovations. Also, opposing the Sunnah with Quran. That's one of the signs of people. When you say this is the Prophet said, they say, but Allah said. That doesn't mean if we have a hadith and someone says Allah said this, he's from Ahlul Bid'ah. No, we have to differentiate, meaning those are hadith that don't have any opposition from Quran, they to remove them, they bring. For example, you say it's not good to do this, they say but Allah said. Like for example, it's not good to do dhikr together after every salah. They say Allah said udhkuruni, remember me, remember me. We say but the Prophet ﷺ remembered Allah better than you, and he didn't do it like that. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they did better than all of us, and they didn't do like that. They say but no, and you don't like dua, akhi. That yeah, they say to us, you don't like dua. Then one of the other signs is to call us names, or to call people of Sunnah names, bad names. Bughdu ahli al-athar, and also hating people who follow hadith and who follow the Sunnah. And also tarku intihal madhhab al-salaf, generally not following the understanding of the ulama, even though they say we follow Imam Malik, we follow Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. His full name is Ahmad bin Muhammad bin Hanbal. And we follow other Imams, but in fact they don't follow them. They use it as a shield. So no one can say, oh subhanallah, you're doing bid'ah. Okay, I'm Hanafi. What bid'ah? I'm Hanbali, akhi. I'm Shafi'i. And so on. Now, also doing takfir of those who differ with them. So if you say something, they don't say it sometimes straight away, but between them they say those are kuffar. That's why many people of bid'ah, they don't say salam to you. First, you know, when you start, you think, what is, maybe he didn't hear me. Salam alaikum. No answer. I know many people in Leicester, when I say salam alaikum to them, they say wa alaikum. And I know why, but I do my duty as a Muslim. I don't consider them kuffar myself. But I believe they consider me a kafir. Another sign is that they make you connected to individuals, not to the Sunnah. I.e., this individual is the guidance. So whatever he says is true. That's not the way of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. Because the only person who doesn't make mistakes in the religion is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everyone else can make mistakes. All Imams can make mistakes. Does it mean that it's wrong to say that? No, because they're humans, they're not angels. They can make mistakes. And they do. Like Imam Malik said his famous statement, who used to teach in Medina, and he was the Imam of Medina, and he pointed to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ and said, any one of us, he means the scholars and the humans and the Muslims, we can take or reject his statement except this one buried here, meaning the Prophet ﷺ. If he says we don't have a choice, we can't say, oh, let me think. For that reason, this, of course, is very important. It's one of the most important things. And some brothers make mistakes in that they attach their heart to an individual. So if that makes mistake, if they find it hard to leave that mistake, not the individual, maybe you don't need to leave the individual, but don't accept that mistake. And I had a discussion with one brother who he follows a certain imam, or he claims, I don't believe he follows him correctly. And I said to him, look, your imam, was he right in everything? He said no, because if he says yes, it means he's a prophet. If you say your imam is right in everything, he's a prophet. He's after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he knows, and he said no. I said, okay, those things your imam was wrong, can it be said that other imams were right? Or maybe one imam, or two, or three, or whatever? He said yes. I said, mashallah, very good. We go in the right way for now. I said, that's the third killer question. I said, those things your imam made mistake in, and someone else was right, can you leave your imam and follow him? He said, you're deviating from the topic. So I said, no, I'm not, but you are. You don't want to go with me. I said, don't worry, akhi. Relax, I said. I'm not trying to, as they call, brainwash you and things like that. No? But that is the reality of the situation. If you think about it, that the ulama, they say, we show you the way to the Prophet ﷺ, not to us. No alim says, I show you the way to me. That person is not a scholar. Not even anything to do with knowledge. Because the person who calls to himself commits a big haram, because Allah said to the Prophet ﷺ, Ud'u ila sabili rabbik. Ud'u ila rabbik. Call to your Lord. Call to the way of your Lord. He didn't even say to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, call to yourself. So then we have to call to Allah and call to the Sunnah. That's one of the greatest characteristics of the people of Bid'ah, that they attach the people to individuals rather than to the Sunnah. And that is why from loving Allah and loving the Prophet ﷺ is to love his Sunnah, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, his way, which is the best way. That's why he used to repeat, Khayrul Huda Huda Muhammad alayhi salam. The best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why this particular statement is only said by the people of Sunnah. The statement that says, وَكُلُّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ, the people of Bid'ah don't like it. Something is going wrong. Even though they say we are on Sunnah, so why can't you say it? They know, many of them, that they're not on the Sunnah. That's why they have to keep repeating that they're Ahlul Sunnah. Because they're not Ahlul Sunnah. We say Ahlul Sunnah. Those who oppose Sunnah say Ahlul Sunnah. Who is right? And we have to look. Who follows the Sunnah is from Ahlul Sunnah. Whether he calls himself Ahlul Sunnah or not, doesn't matter. The names don't change anything. You know, you can call yourself an astronaut. Doesn't make you an astronaut. You can call yourself anything. And one day, like I said before, I think, Nelson Mandela one day was a terrorist. Then he got the Peace Prize. That's strange. A terrorist getting Peace Prize. Out of all prizes, they gave him Peace Prize. At least something else give him. So one day he was, I don't know if you knew, but I discovered, I didn't know myself actually. In 1933 or 32, Adolf Hitler, sorry to say, was Time magazine's Man of the Year. I didn't know that. You know, Time magazine, every year they have a Man of the Year. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the, I don't know, Stalin maybe was once Man of the Year. I don't know. But Hitler definitely, just Google it or whatever else. I think 1933 or 32. And also, don't forget, Ikhwan, that Hitler came to power through democracy. Suddenly he became bad guy. Subhanallah. Of course, we say for the camera and we believe that he wasn't a good guy. It's true. My grandfather went to war with the rahimahullah. But I mean that in loving the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, we do not change the reality. The names don't change anything. So whether you call someone a terrorist, it doesn't become a terrorist. If you call someone a peacemaker, and in fact he is a terrorist, and you know maybe who I'm talking about, doesn't change anything. The reality is one. But many people, you know, they like those words. That's why sometimes you can easily manipulate them. But the person who analyzes, so if someone says, I'm from Sunnah, and he's destroying the Sunnah, and he says, that person is mubtadi', is an innovator, but all his life is on the Sunnah. Who cares about those names? What matters is what is the reality. For that reason, from loving Allah and loving His religion and loving His Prophet ﷺ, and loving the Sunnah and the way of His Prophet ﷺ, is to hate bid'ah for the sake of Allah. And this is from loving for the sake of Allah and hating for the sake of Allah, and to hate people of bid'ah. And the scholars of the past, they warned us against communicating with them, and they used to say al-fitan khattafa aw al-shubuhat khattafa wal-qulub da'ifa, that those doubts and those ideologies those people have, they're very strong, they grab you, and the hearts are weak. That is why a person must always thank Allah if he is on the Sunnah, and ask Allah to keep him on the Sunnah. May Allah keep us all on the Sunnah till we meet Allah. And also take precaution not to leave the Sunnah. Meaning that when the doctor says do this and walk and eat fresh fruit and vegetables and so on and so forth, you generally try to follow that because you want to keep, you know, your health, and you want to be healthy. No one says I want to be ill, even though some people make themselves ill. But no one says I want to be ill. The same way no one says in the religion, I want to do bid'ah. I am a mubtadi', follow me, ikhwan. No one says it. And no one comes and says, I'm shaitan, follow me. In fact, they're shaitan maybe, but they don't say it. So when they come, everyone says what? Sunnah, Quran. Don't bid'ah, a'udhu billah. But in fact, they're doing it. So what is the way to protect oneself? That is to affiliate oneself with Ahlul Sunnah. To stay with the people of Sunnah who respect the Sunnah. Who are the people of Sunnah? Those who respect the Sunnah, the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Not those who disrespect the Sunnah by not following the Prophet ﷺ. And those who respect those who follow the Sunnah. Those who respect the ones who spread the Sunnah. The ones who study the Sunnah. They warn against bid'ah. And there are many examples of bid'ah. Some of them scary. We will show, not very scary, but we removed the scariest ones. But inshallah, brothers want to show you some. And but things like boycotting and things like that, they must be applied according to the advice of the ulama, because those are like medicine. So medicine cannot be applied as we like. We go to the doctor and they say, no, that medicine is not good for you. This one is good, maybe. Or for that person. For that reason, we have many brothers who go around saying, boycott that person, he's an innovator, boycott. That is the way of the scholars. The scholars tell us who is an innovator, even by name if we want to. And who is not an innovator. He's from the people of Sunnah, but they made mistakes. Because we think always, or most of the time, that people don't make mistakes. They make mistakes all the time. Look, those 3 Sahaba who came and said, we will not eat food and not marry, not... A man came and said to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, I now met a woman in the way, and I did with her everything that a man does to his wife except the main thing. I don't want to say it, we have some kids in the audience. The Prophet ﷺ said to him, did you pray with us? He said, yes. He said, that removed your sin. Look, if someone said it to us, we'd, what's wrong with you? You know, you attend lectures and you do these things? Yeah, that's how probably I would have said, or someone would have said. Fear Allah. You're doing things going around. We don't want to say things, you know. The Prophet ﷺ said, very easy. That is where the stress, there is no stress. He said, did you pray with us? He said, yes. Then that's it. Meaning that removed because you didn't commit a major sin. Naam? So for that reason, we must learn the Sunnah to know the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Sometimes we think something is the way of the Prophet ﷺ, and it is not. Sometimes we think something is not the way, and it is. So for that reason, we must try and keep in touch always with the people who are knowledgeable, the ulama, the real scholars, who understand the Sunnah. They spend their day and night studying what the Prophet ﷺ said. They get the feel of the speech of the Prophet. When they hear, they say, no, this is not a hadith. This is not, cannot be from, some people think, oh, this is magic, you know. And it is not, because they spend their entire lives studying what the Prophet ﷺ said and what he didn't say. Because there are people in the history of Islam who used to fabricate hadith deliberately to misguide the Muslims. And Allah brought people, the scholars, who, as some of the rulers said, because he was punishing one of those people. And he said, why are you punishing me now? I put 5,000 hadith, so-called, I fabricated myself among the Muslims. He said, no problem, we have ulama, they will fish them out. They will show the people that the Prophet ﷺ didn't say it. And that is only present among the Muslims, the chain of narration, where we can trace, first of all, by the grace of Allah, secondly, after that, through the efforts of those great scholars, we can trace every single statement, imagine. Whether the Prophet ﷺ said it or not, this is amazing. That is why from loving Allah and loving the Prophet ﷺ, which we said is an obligation upon the believer, is one of the greatest ibadat, is to love Allah and to love the Prophet ﷺ. From that ibadah, from that act of worship, is to hate bid'ah, to hate innovations. And to hate people of innovations, and to advise people in a nice way. Look, akhi, as far as I know, this is not sunnah. And sisters, they can say, look, sister, as far as I know, this is not sunnah, in a nice way. If you don't know, say, I don't know. It's very easy. Islam is easy. If you don't know, don't give a lecture. You know, like some people do. Akhi, I don't have much knowledge, but this is the scary part. I don't have much knowledge, but, and half an hour you're listening, you think, what did he say? That's why when someone says that, I say, Akhi, Jazakallah khairan, I don't have time. Because if you don't have much knowledge, why are you lecturing? Then if you don't have much knowledge, learn, akhi. And keep quiet. That is better for all of us. We have less stress. For that reason, it's very important for us to surround ourselves with good company. Very important. Even if they are not knowledgeable, at least they try to follow the Sunnah. And to distance yourself from people who don't respect the Sunnah through their actions. Because to say is easy. People, as they say, talk is cheap. It's easy to talk. But to implement it in reality is not that easy. Meaning to show, for example, the Prophet ﷺ said, don't do this. And you see those people, they don't do it. Oh, that they respect that. Or the Prophet ﷺ said, do this. And they do it. When you go to some people, you say, Akhi, the Prophet ﷺ said this. They say, Akhi, someone said otherwise. And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma used to say, once someone came to him, and the same Ibn Umar, all the ulama of Sahaba. Ibn Umar, his father Umar. So Ibn Umar, someone came and asked him fatwa. He said like this. He said, your father used to say otherwise. He said, my father? Now if someone say your father, say, oh subhanallah, my father, that's true. I have to change it now. He said, I fear, how you say my father, I'm telling the Prophet ﷺ said. So when we have the Prophet ﷺ number one, not number something, number one, then inshallah, and of course we have many shubuhat they bring. They say, you yourself can't know the Sunnah. We say, how about you? You know the Sunnah? They say, no, I use alim. We say, we do the same. So those doubts that they bring, and they are very easy to refute for those who understand. But they're intended to do what? To deviate us from the way of the Sunnah. Now, and this is what I can remember and what I wrote. And if I made, of course we have the thing, which we hope inshallah won't take long. But before we go to that, I just want to say that it's very important for us to get at least some knowledge, some basic knowledge, so we do not fall into innovations. Inshallah, the brothers will show now some examples, and I will, comment on what I can. Some of them are very strange. Abdul Mu'min, if possible, not to do too much of the sound. Yeah. Okay, this people claim that they, as far as I remember, that they get barakah from this man. Yeah. But in fact, what you can see is that this person, in my view anyway, he brings a jinn inside them. Look. Because a normal human being doesn't do that. So they either pretend or he puts a jinn inside them, and when he makes physical contact with them, the jinn can travel through him to them. No, that's true. And of course some of it is ridiculous. Looks like fitness classes. But anyway. So if you think some films are weird, you should watch this on YouTube. Now, next one, please. Okay, which one? Yeah, this one is a long one, but hopefully one. It's a similar one, where the person looks, he's dishing out his barakah. The person in the middle, you will see him doing his hands around. They claim that the goodness, the barakah is spread around the room. Look, look, look. I'm giving you all my barakah. Look. All of you, all of you. Yes, more. And some people, of course, you see that guy going crazy. He got the most of barakah. He doesn't realize it's true. Allah, ikhwan, these people, they can infest you and infect you with jinn, meaning that they have contact with jinn, these people. And many of them, unfortunately, they do shirk, major shirk and things like that. They ask dead people for help, and look, that's not normal for a person to do. And these are some of the so-called dhikr that they do. Okay, let's slowly move on. This one is another example of so-called dhikr session. This definitely looks like fitness first. You will see now. They will start now. It's a collective dhikr which was never done by the Prophet ﷺ. Never ever. That's not me, sorry. My beard is different. This is a hall, very big hall. It's just, a lot of people, Ikhwan, do it because they like to chill out, like the boys. And let's like dance, and it's like Islamic disco. So-called. There is no such thing, of course. But I'm saying the reason I believe they do it is one reason is because of that. They like to have good time, dance, do things. So when someone says Sunnah is not to do, they say, Akhi, what are you talking about? Look how dhikr we do. We do dhikr. And this, of course, they do ruku'. That's very dangerous because that can end up doing sujood maybe. And ruku' is haram to do. So let's do the next one, please. And let's reduce the sound, please, of this because it's not correct. So this I called when I saw today, because I saw first time today, I said, is this a disco? This they call in a shrine, so-called, in a Sufi shrine, somewhere in Asian country. They call this, I think Pakistan, they call this dhikr session. One guy will come right now in the middle, like wandering in. Like he's gonna start now. So these normal adults who are many of them are very highly educated in terms of some of those they do it. This I don't know. Let's do the next one. Yeah, let's do the next one, please. This is a gathering of, we saw from YouTube, Shia from Afghanistan in America. And this, of course, is one of the ways they claim, they grieve for the death of Hussein radiallahu anhu by beating themselves. And of course, we didn't choose the one with blood because normally they take knives and things and they hit themselves until blood comes. But here it's, you can say, the softer version because they just do this. And the reason they like is because, they just do like dancing and these things. And generally, look, reduce the sound a bit, please. Yeah, so this, how they claim, they're showing their sadness. I don't know, it's not normal to show that way. When you're sad, you don't do much of that. Looks like someone, I don't know, angry, not sad. Now, and all these are misguidance. It's of course one of the ways of the Shia on the Ashura day in Muharram, the 10th of Muharram, they show that. Let's show the next one, please. This I was told there is Christmas music which we shouldn't of course have, but here I was told, what's his name? Qadri, yeah. He's saying in his masjid, Merry Christmas to our Christian brothers and sisters. One Bradford like that? Ah, really? So this brothers chose to show that he's accepting and giving them cake for Christmas and things like that. No. So of course these are, Ikhwan, the reason I think they chose is one of the callers to innovations. No. The death sacrifice, which is true, very true. Yeah, let's go. Let's do the next one, please. This actually, you may think that the person is just having fun, but they consider this to be ibadah. Extreme Sufis, they unfortunately they consider this to be ibadah. and people clapping, and he's doing some stunts. That's supposed to be dhikr. Yeah. And of course you will see now that he comes to the so-called sheikh and kisses his feet. And that of course is total misguidance. Yeah. So these are callers to misguidance. Some people call him, what's his name? Nazim. May Allah guide them, because this all is misguidance. I think this is the last one, correct? No. That's it, yeah. So these are just some of the things brothers chose, even though it's not, of course, a full selection of many things, but many people believe, and many people who believe and accept that, they're very well educated individuals. Before we finish, I know it's been a bit longer than I planned, and maybe some of you planned. I want to, first of all, to thank the masjid and Sheikh Zakaria for hosting these lectures and allowing us to have them here, and the committee of the masjid as well. And I want to encourage you to cooperate with them and our brothers from An-Naseeha Foundation, because what they do is spread the Sunnah, and they want to spread the Sunnah and warn against bid'ah, and spread Tawheed and warn against Shirk. That's how we think of them, and Allah knows them and us. So for that reason, anyone we see doing good, we must first of all encourage them, and secondly try and help them if we can. For that reason, I encourage, actually even when I was coming here today, I wanted to say that, because I do it all the time, because I feel it my duty, that I should encourage people who do good, and also encourage others to help those who do good. And of course, people are not perfect, people make mistakes. Those mistakes don't mean that we abolish every good deed that we do and we criticize people who do it, but rather we should help each other, we should advise one another and love each other for the sake of Allah and for the Sunnah, and help one another. And it's been a great enjoyment and privilege for me to come, even though it was a bit of a challenge to come every week, but it was, in my view, worth it for myself and hopefully, inshallah, for you. And I want to just, like I said, encourage you to cooperate, and inshallah we will meet many more times, I hope. Jazakumullah khairan.